I'm the real heiress that everyone hates. My husband ran away with our son and the fake heiress. I couldn't handle it and chose to end my life. Before dying, I desperately called him, hoping to see him one last time. He said, "Did you see the divorce papers? Sign them already. My wife should have been Lily." He hung up heartlessly, and when I called back, he had blocked me. Later, I didn't make it through the rescue attempts and was pronounced dead. On the day of my funeral, he showed up with our son and the fake heiress to bury their pet turtle in my grave. I was left with no rest, not even in death. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day they eloped. Couldn't even keep her own husband interested. If I were her, I'd have just run headfirst into a wall. Awakening from a stab of pain, I heard sharp shouting outside the door. Before I regained my composure, the door burst open. A woman with a scowl stormed in, pointing at me angrily. "How could I have a daughter like you?" Before finishing, she screamed, dropping the feather duster in shock. "Are you committing suicide?" She dashed over, shouting out for help. "Honey, get over here. Claire is trying to kill herself." Her shout seemed to summon the entire household. As I slowly lifted my eyes to their indifferent faces, I finally understood something. I had been reborn. Reborn on the day my husband David and my sister Lily ran away. In my past life, the news of their elopement crushed me. I bled out in the bathtub. Before dying, I kept calling David, wanting to see him once more. "At least let me see our child one last time before I die." But he refused, urging me to sign the divorce papers quickly and not stop his happiness. In despair, I spent all my money on the most lavish funeral service. Even chose the fanciest plot for my grave. Never expected them to return a month after my death, all elegant and carefree. First thing they did was dig me up and discard my remains, using my prized plot to bury their beloved turtle. A monk declared the plot had great feng shui, ensuring the turtle's reincarnation into their family. Before my soul dispersed, I saw Lily leaning sweetly on David's shoulder, and my son, calling her mommy, in his cute little voice. Poor me, his real mom, heard him call me that only a few rare times. Most times he eyed me nervously, demanded I leave and give him back his Aunt Lily. And as they scattered my ashes, my soul finally broke apart. In that moment I had just one thought. If I had a second chance, I wouldn't lose my life over them again. Heaven heard me, giving me a do-over while I still had the chance. I wasn't committing suicide. I just accidentally cut myself. Holding my bleeding wrist, I stared at them coldly. Even my brother and father, who rushed over, looked at me indifferently. My brother pushed up his glasses, sneering, "Stop causing drama. If you have time, go win your husband back." "Exactly. Your husband took Lily too. Aren't you going to do anything? She's your sister. If this gets out, where will I put my face?" They blamed it all on me, as if I arranged David and Lily's elopement. But they forgot, I'm their daughter by blood. They didn't care if my bleeding wrist hurt. Didn't care if my mental state was crumbling. Only cared about that foster daughter, and their own face. Thankfully, in my past life, I already experienced their coldness. Otherwise, living again for such a tiny shred of family affection would be foolish. "How is your face my problem?" I stepped out of the bathtub, snatching a towel to cover my bleeding wound. Didn't glance at them as I passed by. "What do you mean by that?" My mom jumped up, yanking my wrist, demanding, "Explain yourself before you go." "Let go." I responded coolly, looking at her with exasperation. In my past life, when they found out about the elopement, they blamed me for not keeping an eye on my husband. The trio pointed fingers, accusing me for not dying in a trafficker's hands. Why return and disrupt their happy life? I retorted, and my father slapped me down. Both my brother and mom spat venomous words while looking hateful, telling me to just die. The dual blows of lost love and family crushed me, driving me to death. Now with a second chance, why show them any respect? Predictably, my brother, known for his temper, lunged at me, aiming a slap across my face. But I dodged quickly. He barely grazed my face. "Clara!" My dad roared, "Ungrateful child, get out. We have no daughter like you." "Perfect." I snapped back fearlessly, uninterested in being their family long ago. They and Lily were a true family, all equally disgusting. Yelling that out, I didn't stick around to see their reactions. Just swiftly walked out. My wrist still bled. Didn't want my reborn life to end just yet. As soon as I walked out, I bumped into a tall figure. That person stood frozen, just about to push me away. Dazed, I leaned against him, vaguely seeing a badge. Probably the funeral service person I hired pre-death. Are you okay? His deep voice rang by my ear, strangely familiar. Losing too much blood, I couldn't explain. Slumped against him, tugging his jacket for support. Take me away. I'll pay you double. With that, I blacked out, remembering nothing else. Next time I woke, I was in an empty hospital room. Kindly, he booked a private room using the generous pay I offered. My phone, left in my pocket, was charging next to me. The moment I turned on my computer, a flood of messages came in, all asking what was up with David. What's up? I laughed to myself. Ran off with my sister-in-law, that's what. Before I could reply to each of them, David's mom, my mother-in-law, called. David's back. Come home for a bit. It had only been a day since I cut off David's finances, and here he was back with the kids. When he saw me sitting in our dimly lit living room, he lost it in front of the kids. Clara, I don't love you anymore. Why force me back? I slowly looked up from the sofa and gave him a mocking grin. I didn't force him. Heck, I was more confused than he was when I got the call. It was his mom who suddenly had a change of heart. Afraid Lily would make off with her precious son and grandkid, she used every trick to bring him back. It had nothing to do with me. Seeing my smirk, David seemed uneasy. He tugged at his tie, annoyed, and asked, "Where's the divorce agreement?" He actually remembered that divorce paper. Right before he ran off, he'd left me just one thing. That sarcastic divorce agreement. I tore it up. David frowned, like he expected me to chase after him like before, and his tone went cold. Don't make a scene. Getting divorced sooner is better for everyone. He then pushed our 5-year-old son in front of him. John, tell us, do you want mommy or Aunt Lily? Little John had barely spent any time with me over the years. Maybe he never even thought of me as his mom. David and I both looked at John. Without hesitation, he lifted his face and said, I want Aunt Lily. Just what I expected, really. But still, seeing that determined look on his young face, my heart felt like it was being pricked by needles, drowning in pain. David, satisfied with the answer, smiled like a doting dad. He kissed John's cheek, and then looked at me. See, our son doesn't even want you anymore. What can you do? I ignored him, and pulled out another agreement. The old one left this house to me, but not the company shares. I can't agree to that. I stood up and handed him my revised divorce agreement. David was clearly taken aback. Didn't expect I'd object to the terms. The assets I'm giving you are worth more than the shares. Come on, you don't know how to run the company. He sneered, forgetting that we built this together. I ignored his jab, and told him to have the agreement corrected. Just as I turned to leave, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. He pushed me down onto the sofa with force. Why do you have to be difficult? He questioned right into my ear. Yesterday's wounds hadn't healed, and the sudden force made me gasp in pain. He knew about my suicide attempt from his mom, but he still didn't care. The stabbing pain made it hard to breathe, and tears welled up in my eyes. Seeing my tears, David was momentarily stunned. He knew me as the strong type. In the 10 years we've known each other, from high school till now, I've rarely shown weakness. Last time I cried was probably when John was born. Back then, our relationship was at its peak. I had a difficult delivery, labored for over a day with no progress. David dropped everything and stayed by my side around the clock. He said all he wanted was for John and me to be safe. Nothing else mattered. I was moved to tears and gave birth to John with all my remaining strength. Because of the complications, my health suffered. For years, he used my poor health as an excuse to have John stay with my family, giving Lily time with him. By the time I realized, everything was ruined. What are you crying for? David frowned, touched my face, but I swatted him away. Don't touch me. I sat up abruptly and freed myself from him. The next second, a small figure rushed at me. Why did you push Dad? Why? John, his tiny fists clenched, lunged at me. He hit me, crying, Aunt Lily wouldn't hit Dad, you bad woman. His cries were so loud, it drew everyone else over. David's mom rushed over first, pulling John away, then holding him, soothing him gently. What happened, John? Don't cry, Grandma's here. Then she turned her anger towards me. I gave you a chance to win back your husband and child, and you make him cry again. Before I could respond, Lily hurried in from outside. She calmly held John, avoiding eye contact with me. David had actually brought her back too. Clara, just leave already. You're scaring the kid. Lily's 100 times better with the kid than you. David frowned, squatted to comfort John, leaving me standing there alone. They actually looked like a real family. I laughed wryly watching them. However happy you folks want to be as a family is none of my business. But if I don't have that new divorce agreement by tomorrow, I'll take you down with me. What are you talking about? David couldn't believe what he was hearing. I stood tall and tapped my arm slowly, warning him. You may have sidelined me, but I was right there from the start. I know the dirt on you all. Don't push me to the brink. David's brows furrowed tightly. Deep down, he knew exactly what they'd done. Thinking about it, David got angry and gritted his teeth, saying, if you insist on doing this, the kid, the money, and this whole family won't have anything to do with you anymore. He knew what I wanted most these past few years, was to truly become part of this family. I wanted John to sincerely accept me, so of course he tried to threaten me with that. But I was no longer the useless Clara I used to be. I glanced at John and Lily huddled together, a smile creeping up on my lips. Do whatever you want. You two heartless guys deserve someone like Lily. As soon as I said that, David rushed over, his hand raised high, but it never landed on my face. Did I say something wrong, disloyal guy? I sneered, reminding him of a fact. Years ago, when he broke up with his family over Lily and was down and out, I was the one who took him in. I used my college savings to help him rise again. Over the years, I believed he loved me. I didn't expect that when Lily came back, he'd act like a dog that caught a whiff of something bad, licking up to her without a care. In the end, they even planned to run away together. David was speechless, and right in front of him, I let out a little laugh and walked away like nothing happened. It wasn't so sudden. No one expected that someone as timid as me would ever become so resolute, giving it all up. I turned and walked away, blocking out John's cries. The others finally reacted, pointing at my back, cursing. You're such a deserter. I misjudged you. If I had known, I would have insisted Lily come into our home. My mother-in-law was shaking with anger, cursing non-stop. I paused and waved back at her. It's not too late to roll out the red carpet for her now. You. She clutched her chest as if heartbroken, while I glanced at her, then reminded David to remember to change the agreement. After saying it, I ignored their darkened faces and left. In my past life, I put up with so much, and in the end, I let a nobody take over my place. Now, given a second chance, I'm not making the same mistakes. They owe me, and I'm coming to collect. This is just the start. I walked out the door in high spirits and glanced at the high-end cemetery nearby, suddenly remembering I had booked a complete funeral service for myself. Now that I didn't need it anymore, I'd better cancel it. It cost me a good bit of money. I fished out the business card someone left outside my hospital room today and dialed the number. Hi, this is Clara. I booked a full funeral service with you yesterday. Please cancel it. You can keep a 10% commission for your trouble. Thanks. I got straight to the point. Miraculously, there was silence on the other end. I frowned, checked the number, making sure it was right. Just as I was about to speak again, I heard his voice. Okay, I got it. Then he hung up so fast it left me staring at my screen. When I booked this service, they were so enthusiastic, but now that they wouldn't make any money, they turned cold. I chuckled and shook my head. It's understandable they'd be grumpy after losing such a big order. I put away my phone, hit the gas, and left. Once I got home, I started packing my things. Everything related to me and David I burned. As I threw the last keepsake into the fire, I couldn't help but feel a bit emotional. David and I had known each other since high school, but back then, I hadn't been reunited with my family. He had a girlfriend from a matching background, Lily. They were like celebrities, two rich kids, perfect together. And me, I was just an orphan. We wouldn't have crossed paths, but a car accident brought us together. He saved me, and it was at the hospital I accidentally met the woman, who was supposed to be my mom, there for a checkup. Pre-surgery screenings showed we shared a lot of DNA. This opened up an old secret. I was actually their real daughter, while Lily was the imposter switched by a nanny. When we found out, everyone struggled to accept it. But since I was their child, they took me back, albeit treating me coldly. When they realized Lily and I didn't get along, they always took her side against me. David's mom was obsessed with bloodlines, pushing my parents to make me the bride instead. But we refused. When Lily threw a tantrum and left the country, David fought with his family and ran away. I helped him through it, and he slowly accepted me. Still, my parents always felt I stole Lily's man, hating me all the while. They even thought I deserved it when I died and wouldn't claim my body. But it wasn't my fault. I stared at the fire until it went out, then grabbed my suitcase and left. Before finalizing the divorce, I went home one last time. Stepping through the door, there was Lily, crying and kneeling before my parents. Lily said through tears, "I wasn't going to leave the country, you forced me to. I really wanted to marry David." She kept crying, and I couldn't resist clapping for her performance from the doorway. "What are you doing here, Clara?" She snapped as she sat up, glaring at me. My parents joined in, blaming me too. "All this mess is because of you. And you still have the nerve to come back here. And why shouldn't I?" I asked, stepping forward. If Lily hadn't brought it up, I would have completely forgotten some things from years ago. "If you could go back, would you still marry David?" "Of course. David and I were truly in love. You're the one who barged in and ruined our relationship." She was passionately arguing, while I turned my face towards my brother. My brother, Felix, was pale as a ghost, trying hard to keep it together. I smirked and asked, "Bro, isn't your presence as an ex-boyfriend way too low?" That one sentence hit them like a ton of bricks. Mom froze for a second, then anxiously looked at me. "What are you talking about? Are you out of your mind?" "I'm perfectly sane. This stuff isn't just speculation, I've got proof." I pulled out an audio file I had on my phone. There was some crackling, and then some intimate noises filled the room. They recognized the voices immediately, Lily and my dear brother Felix. 9 years ago, I was brought back home. Lily feared losing her position, so she seduced my brother to convince our parents to keep her. Eventually, Felix got a bit emotionally involved, and Lily thought she could become the head of the family. So when David was pressuring her, she just left the country. Over the years, she kept in touch with Felix. The proof was right in front of them. Felix and Lily were both pale, too shocked to speak. If word gets out about such a scandal, how many people would want to see it? I swung my phone around, smugly looking at them. Seeing their shattered expressions, my sense of revenge grew stronger. Destroying them all is what I wanted. "You've lost it, Clara. He's your brother, and we're your family." Dad pointed at me, tears streaming down his face. Mom panicked, repeatedly talking about how it was a sin. As for the two involved, they were too stunned to do anything but stare at me. I ignored their insults. They never treated me like family anyway. Reaching into my bag, I took out an agreement and threw it in front of them. "This is a disownment agreement. Once you sign it, we're done for good." "What do you mean? Are you really going through with this?" Mom rushed over, tore up the agreement, and raised her hand to slap me. But before she could land the slap, Felix grabbed her hand, stopping her. "Sign it. You've never treated me as family anyway. In all these years back home, I never once felt a sense of family. This household only caused me endless pain." Silently, I watched them, and finally Dad, with trembling hands, signed the agreement. From then on, I gained absolute freedom. There was nothing tying us together anymore. Last night, I called David, urging him to hurry up. David hesitated and asked, "Are you really ready to let go of John?" I thought about it and replied, "Cut the nonsense. I'll be waiting for you at the courthouse tomorrow." Then I sent him a huge red exclamation mark. I blocked him, and he never called back. Even now, he thinks I can't bear to let go of my treacherous son. But why would I hold on? In the past life, when he spread my ashes in a desolate place, he didn't hesitate. The next day, I waited for David at the courthouse. He didn't show, but I didn't care. I had all the time in the world. The funeral home refund hadn't come through yet, so I planned to give them another call. I turned and saw a familiar figure standing beside me. "Are you the one who took me to the hospital that day?" He paused, nodding his head. I remembered the details on his business card and called him by his name, Henry. He nodded again, and I asked, why hasn't my refund come through yet? Henry seemed momentarily surprised, then offered an apologetic smile, saying we'll process it soon. When I booked the all-inclusive service, it came highly recommended. Judging by Henry, it didn't seem like a scam. I didn't press further. Just as I was about to leave, another figure appeared, David. I heard from the lady that he and Lily had a huge fight last night. Now he looked completely drained, a fitting appearance for a widower. We need to talk, he said, looking at me, his eyes pleading. Some things he wanted to clarify. I agreed to talk, choosing a nearby cafe as the location. As soon as we sat down, I bluntly asked, did you bring the divorce papers? David flinched, gritting his teeth. Are you that eager? Yes. I didn't hide my anticipation, staring him down. David clenched his fists, holding back for a while before speaking. I found out about Lily and your brother. Congratulations. You discovered a nice little surprise. Using a mocking tone, I offered him my congratulations. I thought he'd hand over the divorce papers angrily, but unexpectedly, he looked a bit hurt, his eyes watery as they met mine, wanting to say something but holding back. Seeing my impatience, he finally spoke. 5 years ago, the $5 million that saved the company, was it yours? Our company was one we built together that faced a financial crisis 5 years ago. A mysterious woman had donated $5 million, helping us survive. Since then, David became a respected CEO. I said nothing, gazing outside. The cafe had a large glass window, with shadows from swaying trees. It reminded me of when we worked together in coffee shops on project proposals. We were partners then, not as resentful as now. That woman wasn't Lily. It was you, right, Clara? He said, his voice shaky as he confessed what he had found out. I turned my head back, replying with a smile, you figured it out? I thought you'd pretend for life. It was you. David jumped up, his eyes sparkling with emotion. He grabbed my hand, eager to say more. I frowned, not wanting to revisit the past. Since you didn't bring the agreement, let's just meet another day. I shook off his hand and got up decisively, turning away. Don't go. David had never been this anxious before. He followed me, and with all eyes on us in the store, kept asking, why didn't you tell me before? Why didn't you say anything? I stayed silent. He continued, was it fun to make a fool out of me? I ignored him and kept walking. Just as I was about to open the door, Lily walked in. Alongside her was John, looking pitiful. Dad, are you abandoning Lily? He snapped back at John, this is a matter between adults. Stay out of it. John went pale, his lips quivering like he was about to cry. I took advantage of the moment to slip away from David, but he quickly blocked my path. You're not leaving until we talk this out. I stood there, looking at the three of them with their varied expressions, taking deep breaths to remind myself they're not worth it. The next second, I calmed down and looked at David. If I told you, would you have believed me? David was taken aback. Remembering those times, his expression turned complicated. Back then, I had just given birth to John, and Lily had just returned from abroad. Seeing an old flame stirred something in David. The company was going through a crisis. We argued a lot about sending John away, growing farther apart. But the company was also my hard work, and I couldn't watch it decline. So, I donated everything I had in my own name. I never explained this all these years. Little did I know Lily took credit for it. Saying it out loud made me feel a lot better. If he wants to know, he deserves to know. After all, I didn't bring this on myself. For days, David didn't contact me, but I often ran into Henry. Still, I couldn't understand why they hadn't returned my money. But Henry was nice, gentle, polite, nothing like a funeral parlor worker. I heard that David and Lily had a huge fight at home recently, but I wasn't sure what it was about. Later, I heard Lily had left the country after an argument with her family. I couldn't help but feel this was more like being kicked out than voluntarily leaving. A week later, David asked me to come home for dinner. I flatly refused. Apart from divorce, there's nothing left for us to discuss or see. On the phone, David's tone was a bit sad. Is there really no chance for us? I replied firmly, none. After a few seconds of silence, David said, John has a turtle he wants to show you. But I didn't care. I still dislike turtles. After a few days of the standoff, David finally realized I meant what I said. After crying in front of me, he agreed to the divorce. He signed the divorce papers shaking. With a lawyer as a witness, I got everything I wanted. I was all smiles, arranging to meet him at the Civil Affairs office in a month. David looked defeated, forced a miserable smile, and waved me off. With everything settled, I decided to visit the funeral company, where I booked the full service package. It cost a fortune, so I hoped to get something back. When I got there, I was stunned. They cheerfully refunded my money, but told me they had no employee named Henry. I was confused until Henry showed up looking paler than before. "You misunderstood," he said. "I'm not an employee here. I wanted to ask if you'd give me that prime burial spot." Henry explained how he thought he was terminally ill, so he wanted to make arrangements. He knew me, but hadn't been able to reach me, so he went to my house and found me after I failed my suicide attempt. "You had cancer." I was suddenly worried. I really considered him a good friend. "It was just a misdiagnosis. I need a minor surgery," he smiled. "I'm here to tell them I don't need a plot since I'm alive and well." I smiled with relief. Finally, some good news. A month later, I met up with David for the final paperwork. Afterward, I went to the administrative office to change my name. No longer Lily. I took back my orphanage name, Sunny. I left Clara's past behind for good. I packed my things ready for a new city. Before leaving, Henry said goodbye reluctantly, promising to visit when work slowed down. I took off my sunglasses and asked for the 5th time how he knew me. With his usual smile, Henry told me to figure it out myself. Even after searching through a lifetime of memories, I couldn't remember him. "Don't force it. You'll find out someday." Henry hugged me, urging me to go as the announcement sounded. I let it go and waved goodbye. He was right. One day I'd learn the truth. Fate works in mysterious ways. The end.